Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. I'm Shivani Gupta, focusing on the COVID threat that is looming large once again. Around the world, cases are rising even if deaths are not. And in India too, there is alarm because of Omicron cases and festivities around. The Prime Minister is going to be reviewing the COVID situation in just a bit from now. Many states have already started placing restrictions in view of lowering of public guard and Christmas and New Year celebrations approaching. Main focus is on COVID-appropriate behavior because masks have slipped or have completely vanished. People are no longer afraid of catching the virus. Markets are jam-packed. So one large gatherings are to be avoided. Several states are beginning to ban them. And across states, there is also a push for further vaccinations, which continues to be our best mode to defend ourselves against hospitalizations and serious illness and deaths. So while India has done well in vaccinations with newer waves being witnessed, even in countries with fully vaxxed populations, it is imperative that the goal of immunizing the entire eligible population with 2 doses is achieved as quickly as possible. Let me first break down where do we stand right now. India, of course, has done remarkably well given its population challenges to administer over 140 crore doses now. Partially vaccinated population is at 88% plus, which means that this percentage of eligible population has received at least 1 dose. And there is, of course, over 56 crore second doses also that have been administered, which makes India's fully vaccinated population over 18 years at 60%. That's a landmark that has been achieved, and of course we need to take this further. The unvaccinated population, though, is still about 11 crores, and that's where the hurdle is. After reaching about 70-80% of first doses penetration, there has been a decline in the pace, and that is because people are just not taking their vaccinations very seriously anymore, or only a percentage of people who just don't want to take vaccinations are left. But let me also break down the states that have the most number of doses that have been administered. Of course, Uttar Pradesh is the most populous state in the country. For it, the challenge is the highest. It has now crossed the 19 crore mark. Second is Maharashtra at just under 13 crores. There's West Bengal at over 10 crores, Madhya Pradesh at over 10 crores, and Bihar at just under 10 crores. Some of the largest or the most populous, densely populated states in India. Of course, there are some of the smaller states that have achieved nearly 100% penetration of vaccinations. But let me also break out these steps that the governments are taking, even before we hear from the Prime Minister today and what the central government's view is going to be. Maharashtra, there is Section 144 in Mumbai till December 31. Like I mentioned, focus is on ensuring large gatherings don't take place. Seating capacity, indoor-outdoor events has been capped. Entry in public places will only be given to fully vaxxed individuals. Now, this is the behavioral nudge that governments have had to go for because, as I mentioned, there are some who are just refusing to come for their vaccinations. There is no shortage of vaccines anymore, but as the trend has shown globally, there is a percentage that just doesn't want to take it, and maybe others, because the second dose has dipped, don't want to now feel that they need the second dose because the threat had waned a little bit. Let's talk about Delhi. Delhi has also banned social cultural gatherings till December 31st, especially in view of Christmas and New Year celebrations that actually do have a lot of crowds and parties going on in the national capital. 50% cap on seating in bars and restaurants. Let's talk about Karnataka now. There is a ban on mass gatherings across the state now. 50% seating at bars, restaurants without DJs, and all revelers must be fully vaccinated. Like I mentioned, more and more states are now going for this kind of a vaccine mandate to push people to get their second doses and those who are not vaxxed at all. In Haryana too, entry in public places will be allowed only for fully vaxxed individuals post January 1. So you have time to go get your doses. In Punjab, very stern action that the government is intending to take. No salary, at least for government employees, if they have not taken their 2 doses and cannot produce their JAP certificates. So the big question that is on everybody's mind, there is a global COVID panic. Countries like US, UK are witnessing large number of COVID cases again, and there are, of course, alarm bells in India too. Let me first go across to our guests who are joining us. Dr. Mufazzal Lakrawala, founder, Digestive Health Institute, Chairman, Institute Minimal Access Surgical Sciences and Research Center. Dr. Ravindra Mehta, Chief of Critical Care, Pulmonologist, Apollo Hospital, Bangalore. Dr. Chandrakant Laria, Epidemiologist and Public Health Specialist. Dr. Laria, let me come to you first up. I know that even as the Prime Minister sits down to discuss the COVID situation or the Omicron threat, the biggest question on everybody's mind will be, what should India do? So far, India is not seeming very keen either on a booster dose or opening up vaccines for kids just yet. Why do you think that is?
So what we need to remember that Omicron is a new variant. It's not a new virus. It's a variant of a virus which we know for at least 2 years. And in the last 2 years, we have developed a fairly good understanding that how to prevent the transmission of virus, how to provide the protection through the vaccination. So all of these being there, even if Omicron is being considered 3 times more transmissible, but the population which is susceptible is fairly smaller than earlier. So that gives us some assurance. But that does not mean that we can allow the transmission going on. And so what should be done? The things are fairly well known. The government should strengthen the infrastructure, should be prepared. But when it comes to restriction, I think the restriction should be fairly nuanced. They can also vary. Some of the governments are doing something different for vaccinated individual, but something more stringent for unvaccinated or partially vaccinated. But reducing the transmission, the onus now is on especially individuals and society. People need to follow COVID-appropriate behavior, especially wearing masks, and not only wearing masks correctly, following physical distancing, reducing unnecessary travel. So in this context, till now, I personally believe that India's response to Omicron emergency is fairly balanced. Though there have been some excess, but fairly balanced. What should be done? That vaccination coverage should be increased. People, it's not only the government's responsibility, but people like you and me and everyone who believe in vaccination should nudge other people who have not started vaccination to get vaccinated and follow COVID-appropriate behavior. Last point is that I agree with the government and majority of the interventions which are being taken that this period now till early part of January is very crucial. This is holiday season, festive season, tourism season. If we can go through this safely, we will avoid a major hurdle, and that time should be utilized to develop more nuanced strategy by the government. So things are good, and we should maintain that good level of response to Omicron in India.
Dr. Ravindra Mehta, we are getting reports from South Africa already, where the Omicron variant was first detected, that already it seems like they are past their peak. But what can be derived for other countries from that?
Right, so it's been very interesting. The information from South Africa initially came very worrisome when we saw the largest number of mutations ever seen in this particular variant. So we got very worried, and then we got news that it's actually not too bad. It seems to be mild, especially in the vaccinated population. And then 3 days ago, they declared that no, it's just as bad as Delta. And fresh news yesterday is that no, it doesn't seem to be as bad.
Yes.
So currently the writing on the wall seems to be that it's a milder infection. And if this is the case, then I think we're in much better shape to handle what's going on right now. So this is the scenario. Now, will this translate into places like India also? We're not sure. But by and large, COVID has followed a pretty similar pattern worldwide. So for us, looking at the pattern in South Africa, fairly decent news that this is not as bad a variant when it comes to moderate to severe infection and overwhelming healthcare and filling our hospitals. So this is what we're going on. Is this the final word? No, probably not. I think we still have a couple of weeks to go before the writing on the wall is clear. But so far, preliminary news seems to be fairly encouraging, notwithstanding the fact that we have to continue all the precautions which are being touted day in and day out.
But I want to understand from you, why is it that very largely vaccinated populations in the Western world, even populations where booster jabs have been given to a substantial number, continue to see very alarming waves? Not of deaths and hospitalizations, but at least of infections. Obviously, you must have seen over 1 lakh cases being reported in UK alone on a daily basis. Now, a lot of these countries have gone through 4 or 5 waves. Why is that?
So it comes down to the fact that we have now learned after 1 year of vaccination science that these vaccines have limited efficacy against preventing infection. So as we have talked about repeatedly, they're good for moderate to severe infection. They'll prevent hospitalization. They'll prevent all the concern and worry, and they'll prevent death majorly. But none of them, very few of them seem to have great efficacy against infection.
But
First,
sir,
we were
can I
happy
just
with the
interrupt you?
mRNA.
Why are we not witnessing this in, let's say, around the world or even in a very populous country like India, where we are not seeing a rise in COVID cases?
No, so that's what we've always been behind, Gargi. If you see Israel, it is shocking to listen today. Israel is planning the fourth shot.
Yes.
The fourth shot now. So we probably are lagging behind. Delta taught us we're behind a month or two behind everybody else. Quite likely, and I hope that I'm wrong, but I think this is the writing on the wall. In the next 2 to 4 weeks, we will see Omicron spreading through our country despite whatever we do.
Well, there are predictions that by February we could see a peak. That peak, of course, or the wave is not going to be nearly as bad as the second wave in India. And of course, we have added protection this time around of infections and infection-induced immunity and vaccination-induced immunity. Dr. Mufazzal Lakrawala, let me come to you. What are the challenges, do you think, that are being witnessed because the pace of those coming in for their vaccinations, both their first doses and second doses, has lagged for quite some time? Is it that people just no longer fear the virus? They feel I don't need to get vaccinated? Or are we left with that population that just doesn't want to get the vaccine?
Good evening, Argi. As we do know that we've spent 2 years with this pandemic and we've learned a lot of lessons. The government's learned a lot of lessons in handling this pandemic. What is the main requirement for the government? One is to prevent a wave, whether it's a first wave, second wave, third wave, in this case, the third wave. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to block their borders, trying to screen everybody who comes in, trying to do genetic testing, because we do know that Omicron is at least 3 to 5 times more transmissible than the Delta variant. That's one thing that we do know. The next thing is to prevent deaths. And that's why they're going down the double vaccination route. Of course, what we are missing out, I believe, is we're not yet starting the booster doses, at least in that population which was vaccinated first. And most studies have shown that the number of antibodies does wane. So,
but are the boosters working is a question that many countries are also asking. Because
yeah, a lot of countries
boosters are not stopping
started,
infections for sure. Even the WHO said that you cannot boost your way out of getting infections. Infections can only be stopped if you don't gather in masses and have COVID-appropriate behavior.
Okay, there's a lot of COVID fatigue which has set in, and the government can keep saying you need to mask up, you need to maintain social distancing. Do remember that this is the holiday season year. People do know that there's a recovery rate of 95%, and that's unfortunate that people are not scared like they were in the first wave. They're not, unfortunately, that scared of this virus any longer. And they feel that even if they do get it, and the stories emerge that Omicron is a much milder variant, and that's where we are faulting. I think that we should fear, because the more number of people in India get infected, there are going to be that many number of deaths. Lesser than maybe the Delta variant, but there will definitely be deaths.
Let me go across to Dr. Lahiriya once again, and I want to understand again from you that do you think this push of behavioral nudge, because vaccinations fortunately, unfortunately cannot be made mandatory. No state wants to do that, no country wants to do that, especially in a democracy, something that nobody wants to do. But do you believe that this is the right way to push people to bring in very strict vaccine mandates like some states are doing?
So vaccine mandate cannot be imposed on the people. We know that anything which is pushed by the government is likely to backfire. We know in the past also that family planning program in 1977 was forced on the people, and then it had impact in the last 20 years. So this COVID-19 vaccination is not one-off effort. This had to go on for a fairly long period. So we need to have a voluntary approach. There are many learnings, especially from polio elimination program. In polio elimination program in India, there was successive rounds of vaccination. And then each round, 99% of children under age of 5 years were covered. And those were covered through community participation, sustained behavioral change. So what should be done? That it should be two-way. One, that people should be encouraged. Their carrot and incentive approach, such as restriction on non-essential services in the public places, should be done for unvaccinated. But also there had to be community engagement of other people. So there are fairly good lessons on that.
So, for
But what
example,
is
some states are saying if you're not fully vaxxed, you can't go into most of the public areas. Now, Punjab is saying if you're not fully vaxxed, we are not going to give you salary. That is obviously a mandate only for government employees, not really the larger population. Do you think all of this will work and it is time to do this because we need to give that last mile push to our vaccination coverage?
I'm not one of the big supporters of vaccine mandates. The reason is very simple. Like some of the countries which are doing vaccine mandate, they provide a fairly good social security, and then they withdraw social security. That is a different thing. In country like India, the governments rarely do anything for the citizen, and then mandating them to administer vaccine is not the right approach. But there is one broad principle which I want to highlight, that there is one thing which is like something which is essential to the life, like such as food, salary, or other things. Those should not be deprived on any mandate criteria. But something non-essential or something which is public good, such as preventing the boarding on the train or going to a public park or cinema hall, can definitely be mandated, especially in a situation where there are some uncertainties or Omicron is emerging. So governments might be right in doing some of the milder nudge of stopping non-vaccinated people from attending some of the public spaces, and that is an approach which should not be done otherwise, but this is not a normal circumstance. This is pandemic period. So all of those approaches need to be followed. But at the end of it, the approach had to be engaging communities, local people, influencers, and then bringing people to the facility. Like if people like every one of us who believes in vaccination can talk to one individual who is unvaccinated, not start and convince them, that would be a longer and more effective approach rather than nudging people or mandating anything which is really harmful.
I understand where you're coming from, although India is one of the least vaccine resistant population, and the numbers show that we've not had the kind of anti-vaccine movements that some of the other countries like US and UK have witnessed. People have been by and large very cooperative in lockdowns too, especially the first few, even I remember last year at the onset of COVID, and when some of the Western countries were going through some of their worst waves with lots of deaths actually in the elderly population, people were cribbing about lockdowns and they were actually feeling that this is, clamping down on their rights. So there are, of course, both sides to this, but I think in India, governments still find it easier. Before I also run some reports, I want to go across to Dr. Ravinder Mehta once again on this question. Why is it that you feel despite abundance of vaccines now, we are struggling to get to the 100% mark with first doses, or second doses have lagged for some people? Why is that? What's the public psychology here?
So I think you've gone over that quite at length. It's basically the fact that India compared to other countries is good. It's just, I think, the logistics of a massive rollout, the availability at point of source. Where are these communities? Mostly the people in the big cities may have done it. Have we been able to reach out? Is there an economic issue over there? And lastly, that do we lag behind sometimes because it's a colossal effort to try and vaccinate a massive population. 70% or 80% of 1.25 billion is massive. So I think as far as things go, except for China, we've done very well. The issues need to be looked into. Omicron came as a reminder that we have to ramp it up, and everybody who was even in the borderline fence situation is now getting vaccinated.
Yeah.
And I think people are coming to the fore. There's also an education issue. There is somewhere where all these talks, Gargi, don't penetrate to the lower socioeconomic class. They just don't come up to the fore. Those are the people, communities, anti-vaxxers, lower socioeconomic class, which actually have to be targeted to get to where we have to at this point.
Yeah. We've seen some videos of the remarkable work that our healthcare workers are doing, ASHA workers and others are doing, and how they're going even to areas that are not connected by roads or even a kacha road to, get to people and get them vaccinated. Some are taking it willingly, but there are also videos and examples of how, some are being pushed to get those vaccine doses. I request all of you to stay with us. Let me just quickly play out this report that my colleague Mihir is sending us from the Dadar market. Let's take a look.
Narrow lanes with crowds pouring from different parts of the city. This is a common sight at the iconic Dadar market. But in current scenario, the BMC has issued strict guidelines to people at large. Citizens are advised to avoid such places where crowds emerge. COVID-appropriate behavior must be maintained at all times when one steps out of the house. But norms are flouted at such markets on a daily basis because the enforcement on the ground is not enough to bring in the discipline.
Let me quickly take a few final comments from all of our guests. Dr. Lakrawala, let me come to you. As far as the global scenario is concerned, we're not so sure of how well vaccines will continue to do against newer variants that keep coming in. Do you think that there's a lot of onus and focus on the vaccine makers also to kind of continuously keep, bringing vaccines that are quickly available against newer variants? Do you think that by the time we get, for example, something on Omicron, it almost looks like the threat will not be there anymore? We are always behind the 8th ball.
Gargi, that's the thing with science, that you have to keep moving because what is correct right now might not hold value 2 days later. But having said that, I would still say that the current vaccines definitely prevent you from getting severe infection, getting even moderate infections. So let's dispel these thoughts whether the vaccines are effective or not. Most of them are effective.
Yep.
Please go out and take your vaccines is what I would like to say. The companies are doing their bit. They are looking at genomic testing. There's a whole consortium across the world. From India, they're taking samples from the INSACOG as well and looking at human responses to various viruses as well as the virus continuously changing. So that's happening at the background. But right now, go out and take your vaccines which are available.
Okay. Final comments, Dr. Lahiriya. You're also the author of Till We Win, India's Fight Against the COVID-19 Pandemic. But, everybody is wondering, when is this going to end?
One thing is given that it will end. We cannot say that when it is going to end, and unfortunately it has extended for a longer period. But the summary point is that with emergence of Omicron, we need not to panic and worry excessively. We know the tools. People need to keep following COVID-appropriate behavior. We need to get vaccinated. Don't worry about the booster shot. But as and when government decide the booster shot, you can get the booster shot. Till then, keep following COVID-appropriate behavior. If each one of us do our part, we will be out of this pandemic.
Yeah. Dr. Ravinder Mehta, final comments from you too. Any expectations from the government in the days to come?
I think the government's moving much better than it moved in April before Delta. I think that this is the one thing. Secondly, I think Omicron, if it's going to be anywhere from 3 to 5 times more infective, it will sweep the country in a month and walk out, double the speed that of Delta. So between, I think, disease immunity, vaccine immunity, and whatever we can do to behave ourselves, we should be getting out of this in the second half of 2022 with luck.
All right. On that note, I do thank all of you for joining us. We're, of course, waiting to hear what the meeting with the Prime Minister is going to yield and if any key decisions will be taken in days to come, given the Omicron threat and the rising cases across the world. Time for me to also shift our attention to some other breaking news that is coming in. Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana, has expressed deep shock at the incident of the blast that has occurred in Ludhiana District Court complex today. He's called upon Chief Justice of Punjab and Haryana High Court to inquire about the developments. Remember, this is, of course, an alarming situation when court complexes come under attack. Not the same kind, but a similar incident of violence took place in a Delhi court recently. After that, also, there were questions raised on, security in court premises. Let me also go across to my colleague Arunima, who's joining us with more on this. Arunima.
Yes, so this is a case which has happened in a court premises, and since the Chief Justice of India is in a way the custodian of all of bar across the country, it is natural for him to express his shock. He has asked the Punjab and Haryana High Court to hold a proper inquiry into the matter. There are already concerns being expressed by lawyers there in Ludhiana, by the Bar Council, about why there were no, frisking, there was not enough metal detectors allegedly. So if there were any security-related lapses, the Punjab and Haryana High Court, after this push from the CJI, will have to take it up with the administration. And, other parts of the inquiry also, which the CJI has asked for, will perhaps lead to an understanding of what really happened beyond police investigation.
All right. Arunima, thanks a lot for joining us. Let me also go across to another breaking news that is coming in. Punjab governor has called a meeting with the cabinet now to discuss the law and order situation. There are multiple cases that have happened of law and order slipping situation in Punjab in recent days. It's a border state, it's a poll-bound state. So a lot is happening, but it is all very concerning. 2 cases of sacrilege-linked lynchings, in which it was also coming to light that police was on spot, at least in one of those cases, was unable to avoid the killing of the accused, who might not have even committed sacrilege. That's the Kapurthala case. And then there is, of course, now this situation that has arisen. Already politicians and ministers in Punjab have started to indicate that there could be a hand of Pakistan or Pakistan-backed ISI that continues to push the Khalistani agenda in Punjab and the Indian side of Punjab. But it is also imperative, of course, that the law and order situation on India's side is beefed up. Whether there was any laxity on this part is something that will be ascertained in days to come. There is already indications that there were alerts, and in any case, Punjab was on a high alert ahead of elections and with other things going on. Then how did something like this happen? We'll continue to track this very, very closely. Lots of developments happening vis-a-vis Punjab and the blast that has taken place. Stay with us. News and updates will continue in just a minute.